I'm really excited to come to you guys today to talk about this. I think when people are starting agencies or they're in the field or what have you, we see all the sexy, glamorous things. And sometimes we have those oh shit moments, right? Like, what the fuck do we do when this type of thing happens? And so, as you know, I'm very, very transparent with what I have going on and some of the things that I've experienced that you might have to experience as you go through your journey in care. So we're going to be talking about today, so a resident called the cops on my staff. Now what? What do we do? What follows that, right? So that's what we're going to be talking about today. All right, so I made some notes, as I usually do, because this has happened a couple times for me, right? It's nothing I'm proud of, but it has happened and it's real shit. And I want to just be transparent because, you know, when we get clients into our homes and programs, right? This isn't just for like the residential side of things. This is homes or programs, right? You can really, you know, depending on your program participants, you can really find yourself in a very uncomfortable situation if you do not have some key things, right? When you are bringing people into your homes and programs, it is essential, and you guys heard me talk about this before, but it is absolutely essential for you to know that individual, for you to read their treatment plan if they have one, their plan of care, any supporting documents for them coming into your care. You want to be reviewing those fully because that's going to paint a picture of the individual you are going to get. And the reason why I'm bringing that up, because if an individual has a history of doing this, your reaction is going to be a lot different than somebody who doesn't have a history, right? There's point A. Point B is if you have somebody who has, how do I say it with tact? Limiting abilities versus someone else, right? Your response is going to be significantly different between those two, right? And so that's why I'm very specific on, or not specific, I want you all, and you hear me say, to make sure that you know who comes into your homes and programs. This thing that I'm talking about right now literally just happened to me last Friday. I got a call about 1 p.m. that one of my residents called the cops on the staff. And it was just like, it was kind of funny, but then it wasn't, because I could hear I can hear my staff being, you know, she was a bit freaked out because of the way that APD came into the home. So let me just tell you about that real quick. So the individual called APD and they said that the staff was not, he said something, and the operator couldn't understand. So either he said that the staff was harming him or the staff was harming his girlfriend was hurt and the staff wasn't attending to her. So the operator really couldn't understand this individual. So they dispatched 2 officers to do a wellness check in the home. My homes don't look like assisted living homes or group homes from the outside of them. So when they came up to the home, they were not aware that it was an ALF or a group home, whichever you want to look at, right? So they came in and this individual, my staff opened the door. She was shook, you know, Black woman. She's an older Black woman. Officers at the door, she's like, what's going on? And they're questioning her. See, at the time, she didn't know that this individual had called. So this individual comes down and he's telling the officers that this staff is being mean and blah, 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 blah. So of course, you know, she's like shook. The officers are questioning her, telling her, please back away. We're trying to talk to him. So she calls me in a total panic. She calls me in a total panic. And so I said, let them finish talking to him. And then go ahead and put me on speaker and I will talk to the officers. So I did. I talked to the officers, and, you know, they were calm after that, after they realized, oh, it is an ALF, it's a group home, you know, we didn't understand. We thought he was in distress. The operator dispatched us. So they were cool when they talked to me, right, over the phone, but they were not necessarily kind or cool when they were speaking to my staff. So that's kind of what happened on this last go around. So before I get into what happens after that, exactly what I did, I want to go through this list, right? So the first thing is knowing your residents and their capabilities. I knew that this individual, based off his diagnoses, what his capabilities were, right? The second thing is you want to make sure your staff are trained so they know what to do in this situation, because there are reports and different things that have to be filed afterwards in accordance with your state rules and regulations, and then your internal processes and procedures, okay? So you want to make sure that your staff are trained. They know at least the internal procedures. They might not know the external. And my staff did exactly what she was supposed to do, and she contacted me, okay? She did not contact the guardian. She did not grab his phone and go through it or anything like that. Like, no, she contacted me once she learned of the situation and was like going through it, right? And then to communicate with the local officials or APD or your police department about the individual's diagnoses. If you are not able to immediately produce exactly what's going on and what that individual is dealing with, there could be some setbacks with the communication and going back and forth with APD or the cops in your state, right? I've had some really good interactions and I've had some really bad interactions. And at the end of the day, like, they're not out to get us per se, but they know that these individuals are vulnerable. However, a lot of the officers don't know how to deal with people with disabilities or people who are aged and who have Alzheimer's and dementia and things like that. Like, they don't know the proper procedure and protocol. And so some officers do, right? Some of them do, but a lot of them don't. And I forget the name of, at least here of the specific trained officers who go through a specific training to deal with these situations, but most people who they dispatch don't, okay? So making sure that the communication is clear regarding the individual diagnoses and, you know, why they're in care, right? And then number 4 comes to what to do afterwards, right? What is that internal and external reporting? What does that look like? And it could look like a variety of things. One, you have to contact everyone on the plane and in the team, right? For me, this is what I do. You might not do this, or you might do something different if you're working for an agency, right? For me and what I do and the processes that I go through, I contact everyone on the team. So the care coordinator, social worker, guardian, whomever is on the team, except for like partnering agencies. I won't call them because it's none of their business, but I call all of the key players to the team. And I notify them of what has happened, right? Because APD 911 was involved. So I notified them on that. During that call of me notifying them, I'm kind of jotting down notes and making sure I'm hitting the key points. And then at the end of that, because it's usually a phone call or, yeah, I would say email, but typically a phone call, I let them know what I would like to see happen after that, right? So I say from right now, this is what my plan is until we have a meeting about this, because it's not okay for a resident to just blatantly call APD 911, whoever it is, your sheriff, whoever, in the middle, you know, just because they were told, no, they can't go and do something, or a center is closed that day. I mean, I understand for like health and safety and different things like that, but not being able to cope was the reason why this individual called, right? And so no, that's not okay. So we need to identify what the thing is that individual needs to work on, which is one, coping. And then what I would like to see next is a team meeting. And then what's going to happen between now and then. I'm going to be taking the cell phone. The individual will have access to the cell phone with staff supervision, but will not be able to take the cell phone to their room. So they're not just calling 911 and stuff again, right? I also told that guardian that, you know, because this individual has the limiting abilities that they have, but a lot of freedoms when they come to a phone, right, and access, that there needs to be some safeguards put in place. Now, I don't think you can block 911, and I'm not going to ask anybody to do that, right? But I still want some safeguards put in place, and then working towards some goals, right? Because that individual wasn't able to cope with being told no or not right now. And so their response was, I'm going to call 911. Okay, so your response to any of this is going to depend on the individual coming into your home. That's why I said that was number one. That was my like internal things. And then my external things were to like file a CIR report, because we are an ALF, and because ALF group home, I'm using them interchangeably here. Because of that, APD here charges group homes, ALFs, any of that. The sun's like really bright in my eyes. I have a lot of reflection going on, but APD will charge anywhere between $500 and $800 per call out for a business, right? And so when I was letting that guardian know, part of that was, you know, if I am invoiced for this call out, I will be invoicing you to pay that, right? And she was just like, oh, and I'm like, yeah, there was no emergency. This individual called on their own free will. Nothing was going on. So if I'm invoiced as a business, I will be sending that invoice to you because so-and-so placed the call, right? So those are the things that you have to do when you're kind of following up. And then, you know, we file the CIR, we file that goes on state record, because if there was APD or just any of the like departments, like adult protective services, or anybody comes out, or even like if you have to take them to the ER after traditional business hours or anything like that, you should be filing these kind of reports. And this is just tracked. All you're doing is tracking it, and then it's presented, especially if you're doing like Medicaid and stuff like that. If you're not doing Medicaid and you're just doing like private pay, I would still keep track of it. You don't have to probably don't need to put it in a report or anything like that. Like, no, you really don't. I would just say keep record of it. But when you're working with Medicaid and you're working with the state, you have to keep track of these different things. Like documentation is so freaking important. And so it is all about the paper trail. And if it's not documented, it didn't happen. And so for us to really be able to put limitations around this individual for his phone, because they have rights, right? They have rights. And so for us to be able to do it, it needs to be formally documented externally, internally, so we can put it into the person-centered plan. And it's going to be worded as more like a safety protocol, right? A safety protocol. You have to remember that when you're developing plans and when you're doing stuff like this and taking measures that are taken away from somebody's rights, you have to have enough documentation to support that decision. And if you do not have it, then you're not going to be able to do that, right? So if I did not have all of those things, there would be really no grounds for me to say, like, this individual needs to be monitored when they're on their phone. This individual is not able to make smart, sound decisions with their phone. This individual has no history of doing X, Y, and Z. So I wouldn't be able to do that. But with the documentation, that's where it allows me to do that, okay? And then also, you know, following up with your staff is going to be the next thing that you want to do. And you want to make sure that they felt supported in the process. Ask them, you know, how they felt about the procedure, the internal procedure, and then also walking them through, you know, any feedback you could give them, you know. I understand the day and age we are in, and I understand the day and age we are in, especially with being a Black person and the APD or cops knocking on your door, and this client is Caucasian, and you know, being questioned by them, telling you not to talk, don't talk, we're talking to him, you know, I know that was probably very hard for my staff to go through. I can go with the flow. I know the process. So I probably would have just stood back and had my hands folded and let them talk. And then they would have addressed me and I would have spoke. And so for her, that was kind of like a situation where she hadn't really been in and she just felt accused. And so we talked through that. We talked through the processes. And she told me, she said, I did a training on boundaries last week. And she was like, wow, she was like, that really came into play here. And so offering like additional training or additional supports that they would need to feel comfortable, because nobody wants to be out of their place of work and their clients calling the cops on them. You know what I mean? Like nobody wants that for no reason. And so again, it goes back to who you are accepting into your homes and programs. It goes back to what those people's abilities are, right? It goes back to you training your staff so that they're aware of what to do in a situation like this, following the protocols, both internally and externally, and then, you know, having that team meeting and that documentation to support the changes that you are really wanting for that individual, presenting that to the team so we can get that into their support plan and plan of care. And again, it's going to depend on the client. So you might have this workflow that you're kind of hearing me talk about today, and you're like, Ariana, that's not going to work. My client's their own guardian. Okay, again, it goes back to the client, right? It goes back to who you are accepting into your homes and program. And I want you to be very clear on that and not let, you know, money sway you when you are looking to bring people in and, you know, to fill your homes and to fill your programs, because that's what we all want, right? We want to build wealth through care. We want to make money. We want to make impact. We want to do all of the things. But again, we have to be very selective. So I would never accept, there was something online in one of the groups I'm in, like somebody was asking for housing and it said something along the lines of like, I've abused drugs, I've gotten into fights, I smoke marijuana in my room, I like all of these things. And then this person was like asking for a placement. Like, I want somebody who's going to be like effective, like not effective, but I want somebody who's going to allow all of these things. And I'm like, what in the actual hell? Like, I don't want to do that. I don't want to have anybody in my homes and programs doing that. Like, absolutely not. But if that's what you are good with, and if that's what you like want, and that's what you're accepting, then great. Like, know what you're getting up front, so you're not surprised on the back end. Because I can't stand it when providers like, oh yeah, we can deal with that. We can deal with that. We can deal with that. Yep. And then some shit happens and then they're shocked. And I'm like, well, why are you actually shocked? Look at who you're taking into your homes and programs, and then you will know what you're really going to be dealing with. So I know that kind of went all over in the sense of there's so many different variables, but at the end of the day, if you're having an internal and external procedure, and you have that developed and you're following it, then great, you know, then great. It doesn't need to be super elaborate. It doesn't need to be, super complex, but you need to have a certain procedure that your staff are able to follow and that you're able to follow. And then ultimately your homes are running the way you want them to run. Because if your business shouldn't be running you, right? Your clients should not be running you. If that's happening, you need to reevaluate, right? And it's really important that it's really important that you know that going into this business, because there's so many times there have been clients that have not been my ideal client, right? Have not been the mark for me, but I've taken them, or I've taken one. I could have taken them just to meet the mark financially, but I knew, because I've taken the wrong one before, of all of the troubles that could kind of come from it, right? So that's what I have on that. If you guys are taking people into your homes and programs and are having some troubles with them, right? I encourage you to like reevaluate the situation and think about, okay, what do I need? What do I want from this resident? How can I How can I provide the best service I can, but then set the expectation? And if you have allowed like a whole bunch of shit, like in the past, if you have allowed that, and then you're trying to go back and like clear it out, just know you're going to be met with some resistance, right? So I want you to get super, super clear on what it is that you want from your clients and how you want your homes and programs to run, because you really can have it all. You absolutely can. You can have it all. You can have your programs, you can have your homes, you can have your clients, you can have all of those things, and they can run beautifully like a well-oiled machine, or it could be total chaos. And the choice is really yours, my friend. So that's all I have for you today. I hope this was helpful. Let's see the comments. Shia says, yes, money doesn't matter if it's not a good fit all the way around. Absolutely. You all, I've shared before in this group, but I will share it right here and right now. I have been attacked by a client who was not a good fit. I knew they weren't a good fit, but I took the client for the sake of the money because I needed the money. And I have a therapeutic background. So I took this individual. My children were in the home at the time, and I got my ass beat, like handed to me. I was bruised from my neck all the way down. I was in the bed for, I don't know, a week. I didn't come to the home for at least a week. It was really hard to move. She threw me over, you know, she threw me against the wall. She threw me into a bench. This was a DD client, a female client. So when I say make sure you have the right fit, like it's really important. And I don't just say it just to say it. I've been through some things, okay? So, and I've dealt with youth, same thing. Make sure it's the right fit, even with youth. One of my youth that I had in my program, my youth group home, missed the deadline for her meds by like an hour. I want to say it was like an hour or something. It was the agency that I was with, the agency that I was affiliated with was doing like a date night, right? So this allowed my husband and I to be able to go out and do whatever we wanted for like 4 hours, right? It was kind of like a respite break. And they didn't give her her meds. We brought her meds. She's supposed to have her meds like around like 6:30 p.m. or something like that. I don't exactly remember, but missed her meds by an hour. So we went to pick this individual up. When I tell you the whole rec room was destroyed, she had like flipped over the pool table. She was rocking the refrigerator back and forth, like because meds were missed by, I want to say it was like an hour time. We're able to get her in the car. I mean, she threw a stapler across the room. I know it went past Douglas's head. There was like just so many things that can happen. And if you don't, she seemed like the right client, but I don't know, we weren't necessarily presented with all of the information. But when she missed those meds, that brought out a whole nother thing, but that was never on her intake documents, her plan of cares, her support doc. It was like on nothing, and we had to learn the hard way. So I've been around the block, and Andre has so many stories also. So I've been around the block when it comes to getting the right fit into your homes and programs. And just to wrap it up with this gentleman that I'm talking about, that we had the encounter with APD over not the weekend, but last Friday, the guardian was totally on board with all of my recommendations, all of my wants. And so, yeah, we actually have a meeting about that tomorrow. I created the formal internal report. I did the external report. So we'll be changing the plan of care tomorrow to support that individual not having access to their phone unless staff are there, so we don't have this problem in the future. So that is it in a nutshell. I hope everybody's having a fantastical day. Thanks for rocking with me, and showing up for yourself, really, because this is great information for you. If you all have any questions, definitely just pop them in the comments of the video and I will see them. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.